Alright, so Baldur here, and I'm doing a follow-up on my playthrough of this game. Right now this game is X-Plane. I'm not going to talk politics here, I'm just going to go ahead and get to the part where I land. So, right now I'm in the Swiss Alps, and I'm going to do something fairly dangerous. So, as you can see, I'm in the mountains. I'm in a prop plane, it's called a turboprop. And it's a King Air 90B or 90C, I believe. And I'm going to be landing in a town in the Alps. So, as it stands, I'm going to do everything needed. To start landing. But yeah, so generally I'm on an approach, and this is a fake approach. There's no such type of approach in the world that I'm using. I'm just pretty much winging it. But so far, I've done this approach many times before, and it has worked. So this is the plane I'm using. These are the mountains I'm flying over, and just as a rule of thumb, you never want to fly over mountains like these. Mountains are probably the most dangerous place an aircraft can ever fly over, because mainly wind. When it comes to aircraft and when it comes to mountains, wind will generally travel along the ridges like this, and once it does, it'll go upwards, and once it hits the peaks like this, it's going to fling up upwards, and that can go as turbulence. So that's generally something you don't want to go with. Also, if it goes over here and clips the mountain, the top of the mountain, then you could get wind vortices like this, pretty much horizontal tornadoes. So the last thing you ever want to do is to, pretty much the last thing you ever want to do, that's my airport, is to fly over the mountains, but I did just exactly that, and I'm fine. So I don't know if it's a simulator that's doing it and I'm actually safe, or it's just the fact that I'm lucky, I don't know. But so far this path for me has worked quite a bit. I've been practicing with this route, and yeah, just generally been doing that. A Swiss run for some reason, but I do like the Alps. It kind of reminds me of home back in the Rockies. But either way, I'm going to do a teardrop landing because I'm too high of an altitude to actually reach that airport. So at the moment I'm going to fly away from it to lose altitude. And once I do, I should be able to fly along this canyon and end up landing. I did check the METARs, the weather briefing, before I actually landed, and it says the winds are calm, so either way works. So going from that, I'm actually going to position the aircraft like this. And I've been neglecting my instruments for too long, so I'm going to have a very steep turn like this. Head towards the mountains. Oh yes, generally something you never want to do. Very dangerous. But you know, we gotta bleed off the speed somehow. It looks like we're gonna clear the mountains. Yes, it does. So that's good. Yes, and we're positioning ourselves. Way too steep of a turn, so I'm gonna S-turn like this. And am I gonna make another 360? I probably made the passengers dizzy. I'm probably gonna get fired for this. Yeah, it doesn't seem like I'm gonna make that approach. I should have teardropped it a little bit later, instead of doing it at the moment. The problem is that those mountains are so high that I actually have to do a steep descent. But the steeper my descent is, the faster I'm going to go. In fact, I'm already 190 knots. My average speed was 140 knots. Yeah, definitely not good. But either way, since I do have excess speed, I can pretty much keep my altitude the same, stop descending, and what that'll do is that I'll be able to bleed off my speed as such. And generally this is called a... oh, what is it called? Well, anyway, this is going to be a left base turn, or a left base landing. Gonna bleed off speed, that's definitely enough for flaps. That beeping sound is telling me that I need to lower my gears. No, I don't. The problem is that over there, in this area with the flashing light, there's actually an airbase. So I'd like to avoid that before making my base turn and then going into final. But I seem to have slowed down enough, so I'm going to apply another thing of flaps. And now I'm going to bring down my landing gear. Alright, so is my landing gear down? Yep, 3 grains. You always want to check, and once you bring down your landing gear, you're going to get a ton of drag. If you haven't noticed, my my airspeed and my rate of descent fell like a rock. So, I always want to be aware of that. So far, I'm going to give myself a... oh, that thing's automated. It tells me how much altitude I have left in the radar altitude. I heard you the first time. So let's take a look. I definitely don't want to turn yet. But I'm heading towards... no, that's not an airbase. The airbase must be more up north. I guess that's a helipad. So I'm gonna go ahead and make my turn. One of the reasons why I don't play this game as often as Flight Simulator 10 is because this thing doesn't do any hand-holding. So it's pretty complicated to set up a flight. Not impossible, but very complicated. There's also kind of a limit on the amount of planes you have. Ooh, that's going to be a very odd approach. But definitely workable. So, I just need to hug the mountain like so. Turn into the bay, turn into the airport. Looks like a good approach to me. Bring up my rate of descent a little bit. There's a ridge on top of the, near the airport. I mean, who the hell builds in a runway right next to the hill? I guess maybe they didn't have the choices as the Alps after all. But here we go. It looks like we're lined up quite well. I'm a little bit slow. But throttle's going out. Rate of descent. Bring up the nose. A little hard, but perfectly fine. So I'm... what I did right there was... well, rather interesting. Hang on. Whoa. Forgot I had a nose wheel to look out for. so there we go. Anyway, landing successful. I've been having finicky controls with this game recently, so that's kind of why I skidded around a little. But yeah, landed successfully. If you're wondering what that noise was with the engines, that's fairly simple. When it comes to generally engine or jet controlled planes, this may not seem like a jet to you, but this is what you call a turboprop. When you deal with turboprop engines, they're generally, well, they're definitely jet engines. It's just that the jet engine itself runs the shaft, or the crankshaft, that runs the propellers. And when you have jet-controlled planes, you also have this option to do what are called reverse thrusters. On an airplane like this, the reverse thrusters are pretty much changing the angles of the blades so that they're the reverse of what they originally were. So the faster that the engines go, the faster the engines go, the more it's going to break the plane to put it in reverse. And pretty much that's just how it works, you know. You take the, what's a good way to put it? Can't think right now. But anyway, yeah, you take the propellers, you flip them around, then you increase the throttle. That'll actually make you slow down even more because now the propellers have been reversed. And with jet engines, what they do is that they have exhaust fans that point the other direction. Which, I guess the more you know. But anyway, let me just turn off this engine. I want the beacon on still. But all these lights should go off. De-icing, don't need to worry about that since I'm on the ground. What I am looking for are the avionics. There we go. So we turn that off. The inverter is off. And now we're good to go. So we go with that, and then well, it pretty much feathers. Just an interesting fact is that these propellers, they're able to change the blade angle, and that's generally what you want to do during cruise to save fuel. I did a little bit of that in my rant. But when you have it on an angle that's perpendicular to the wind, it's called feathering. And you almost always want to do that in case of an engine failure, or when you're just parking your airplane. So it goes like that. Just a fun fact. Anyway, that should be it for part 2 of this Let's Play. So, like and favorite this, and if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe. There's plenty more to come. Have a nice day.